The next step for my mentor, Dr. McWayne, she'll analyze the transcript and she's gonna eventually write a book to represent a diverse parenting book. And the themes found in the transcript will be used to create a measure that assesses parenting competence. And the second wave of the project involved examining the relation between parenting competence and children's school readiness and outcomes. So eventually my mentor is going to examine how these parenting tendencies actually correlate with the children's readiness in school. And the limitations on the study, well, the problem with doing any kind of research in psychology, sociology, or etc.
is this is a time use
A tendency to tell the truth more in a survey that's blind based and doesn't have a name on it than when they're in an interview and they see you face to face. And the results may not be relevant to parents who do not fit the characteristics of the sample. So this research may not be relevant to a Caribbean or African American who's of high socioeconomic status or does not live in New York City. And only 3 of New York City boroughs are currently represented in the study, and the question may not accurately assess parents' competence. And the current study investigated in the relationship between Black parenting and techniques and readiness in preschool children. And as far as this study has been done, we noticed that that parenting in Black communities differ from middle-class white parenting methods because of cultural differences, traditions, and values. Overall, the ultimate goal is to see their children succeed and to find happiness. And a future application for this work, well, I'm sorry for the big bunch down there, but the gathered data can be analyzed by researchers and presented as articles in academic journals or in conference presentations. And future researchers can use the skill created by the study in a future work at assessing the parenting of low-income African-American parents. And community centers can also develop workshops that are culturally relevant to their area. So instead of creating these workshops that are very broad and vague and don't really magnet to the cultural identity of the area, researchers and organizations can create parenting workshops that magnet more to the cultural identity of the community, so it would be more relevant to the parents in that area. And like I said, it's important because there's a lack of research in this area. There's many research projects that emphasize on either African American parenting or Caribbean, but they fail to show a correlation and the difference between the two. This information can be used to help family-oriented organizations understand how cultural differences can be reflected in parenting methods. And my acknowledgements, I would like to thank my mentor, Dr. Chrissy McWayne and Jacqueline Mattis, and the Pearls team, which were the undergraduates who helped us in this project, which was Melissa, Carolyn, Brooke, Connie, and Lenny. Dr. Sad, Head Start Centers, and our participants, NYU Startup Department, staff of HCS, and our audience. But I would also like to speak about my current research that I'm doing this year. Although I don't have a slide on me to talk about that, I will verbally tell you. Well, this year I'm doing a quite interesting project. I'm actually doing an ethnography in a nursing home to show a correlation between the interaction of inner city youth with the elderly, because recently there's an organization that conducted this program in which is called the Intergenerational Work Study Program. And their philosophy is that if you put inner city youth in a nursing home, that they'll maintain these humanitarian skills and they'll become better individuals. But what I wanted to document is that, is this really true? So in my research, I actually observed, like an ethnography is research in which you go into a facility and the people, you observe them, but they don't necessarily know that you're a researcher because you don't really come in and, well, you tell the facility that you're doing a research study. People that you're actually looking at or observing, they don't actually know that you're doing research, but when you write up your research projects and everything, you maintain you blind their identity, so it's not like you're really violating their privacy because you don't use any of their information, you're just analyzing behaviors. So with my research now and my mentor within the facility, we observed the interaction of the inner city youth with the elderly and to see if the program truly works, because a lot of times the city of New York will implement these programs and they believe that it'll work a certain way, but in reality sometimes they aren't really that effective. So I'm basically testing the effectiveness if inner city youth interacting with elderly actually does affect their humanitarian traits, or if they really do interact with them while they are volunteering at the facility. So my research now is quite interesting. Hopefully later I'll because, well, I would say that this project has a long way to go, but when they finally do find the cultural tendencies within African American and Caribbean parents, they're going to try to show a correlation between school, like preschool readiness, to see if they're going to test the children and see if the achievement in school has anything to do with the cultural tendencies and the parenting. Yeah, it continues to follow through. Like I said, I only worked with them for a year, but I can ask them. But I believe that this project will follow through for many years to come. So.
Quick question. So, are you looking for self-selection for the decision to leave this year? So, are you looking at teenagers as well who are not signed up as volunteers?
Actually, it's through the intergenerational work study program. It's actually an organization that was formed because they believe that putting inner city kids in a nursing home will actually strengthen their grades or make them become better volunteers and more humanitarian traits. But I don't know exactly where. We'll ask the question again.
If you're looking at other teenagers that are not in the program.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.